ItsOcean. I'm gonna need to slip something on for this video, and no, I don't mean lingerie. Oh yes, we're slipping on a bad boy drip for this video as we get prepared to talk about Judgment. That is right, it is finally time for me to talk about Lost Judgment. Before we start the video, I just want to say there will be absolutely no spoilers for Lost Judgment. This video is basically my thoughts on the game and a kind of, what is this game? For anyone who doesn't know what Lost Judgment is. So don't worry, no spoilers whatsoever. Apart from this one, that's the second time I have made that joke in a single month. Oh my god, end me. But anyways, let's get into this. A man stands on trial for sexual harassment charges. He stands guilty, but a smirk forms on his face. He tells the room a body has been discovered in Yokohama. This man has been murdered. Something feels very off about this case. So then Best Girl Saori returns. Oh my god, yes, thank you, I love you, Saori. Sorry, Your Honor, I got distracted, my bad. So Saori, oh my god, Saori, I love you! Decides to enlist the help of our protagonist and overall sexiest man alive, Takayuki Yagami. This is a detective story, and thus there are a lot of moving parts going on than you may initially think. Yagami and the boys find themselves way in over their heads once again. Oh, and for some reason Tsukumo's now a part of the team, I guess. More like Sukon decent nuts. I do have to say though that this game is full of cutscenes. There is a lot of gameplay here, so don't worry, this is not another Metal Gear Solid 4 situation all over again. But yeah, you'll be sitting through a lot of dialogue and a lot of cutscenes. It is a great story overall, but I did prefer the first game's story. But that doesn't take anything away from this game. It has its dark moments, it is very tense, it has its plot twists. It's everything that you could want in a detective style story, this kind of whodunit style story. As Yagami tries to find out what happened to this man that died, what is going on with the guy in the court case, why is he revealing this dead body when he's literally in a courtroom being sent to jail. It's all so strange and all feels very off. It's a very cool story. So let's start off with the biggest aspect of this game's gameplay, and that is the combat. And the combat in Lost Judgment is so freaking good. Like, oh my god, I still can't get over it. I can't deal with how good this game's combat is. Now admittedly I wasn't too fond of the combat in the first game due to some of the fighting styles feeling kind of underpowered and not very useful in certain situations, but it has been massively upgraded here. The two previous fighting styles, Crane and Tiger, make their return and they have been massively upgraded. They feel more unique, they feel faster and more powerful. But this game also adds two new fighting styles, although one of them is DLC. See, that's more likely already content that's on the disc, but guess that's just how the industry is these days, reselling stuff that's already in the game. Love it. The first new fighting style is the Snake style. And it is pretty freaking cool. This style focuses a lot more on defense, parries and grappling maneuvers.
What a maneuver!
What is super fun about this style too is that this style has a new form of EX move called Surrender. When an enemy is fearful of you, you can do this. The second new style, as I mentioned, is DLC, unfortunately. It is unfortunate because I personally think that this should have just been included in the full game, considering this fighting style is a boxing style, and one of the things that I'll talk about shortly is there is a boxing minigame in this game, and it felt like the boxing minigame should have unlocked the boxing style when you either start doing the minigame or when you finish the minigame as a reward for completing it. But this new boxing style is similar to the rush style that you can use in Yakuza 0, although it's not quite as strong in my opinion. Fast-paced dodges, quick jabs, and a defense breaker attack. It is a super fun style that has actually become my boss fight main style, thanks to its super duper fast dodges. But in order to upgrade the style, you need to unlock and play the boxing minigame. While I do still think that this particular style should be unlocked via starting or finishing the boxing minigame, it is really cool to go through the boxing minigame and unlock all these different moves that you can then take out into the main world. It feels quite rewarding. It's like a double reward, because if you unlock a new skill in the boxing minigame, you also unlock that new skill when you're outside of the boxing minigame. That's just super cool. How many fucking times did I just say boxing minigame? Drink for every single time I said boxing minigame. There's gonna be a lot of wasted people out there. While we're on the topic of skills, Judgment's SP-based skill system returns in Lost Judgment. It functions the same as the previous game, but now it has new skills available, and the two new fighting styles gets their own sections too. What is a welcome change in this game though is that you can get more SP from battling. Thank you! There are also a bunch of combat challenges that you can try to complete in any fight to gain yourself some extra SP. Another thing that returns in this game is EX moves. For anyone who doesn't know what an EX move is, they are basically the same thing as Heat moves from Yakuza. And for anyone who hasn't played any of these games whatsoever, these moves are big powerful moves that have flashy and cool animations, ranging from things like the surrender moves I talked about earlier, or something big and flashy like this. There is also EX Boost. This boost is kind of like activating your super, and it helps you deal a lot more damage, and it has these amazingly cool and strong moves which can only be done with this boost active. This comes in super handy against bosses and large amounts of enemies. But I will quickly add something to the script here. I didn't originally write this down, but as of a few days ago, I actually beat Lost Judgment on Legend difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty. And I will say, EX Boost mode makes harder fights and harder difficulties a fucking joke. They are so ridiculously easy. There are sections where you can have large groups of enemies, and all you have to do is go into Crane style, activate EX Boost, and then just go nuts, and everything will just die around you. It is super fun, but it does make the game trivial at certain times, especially if you are further into your upgrades, so keep that in mind. And once again, very similar to my first video, I actually completely forgot to write about the fact that you can do wall run moves, because I rarely ever use them. I still feel like they're not very useful in this game. Sure, there's some new moves you can do here and there, and you can use them in the new styles as well, but they're still just kind of there. They're awkward to try and activate and use, and a lot of the time I just find it much easier to just not use them. I can wholeheartedly say that this game's combat has become my new favourite of the whole franchise. It's just so fun. The range of different styles, the awesome EX moves, the potent and flashy EX boosts, even if it does make the game kind of ridiculously easy sometimes. It's all fantastic and I just love it. It's so fun.
Like, I'm feeling a little irked, or at least like irked adjacent, and then these guys bring in their bad vibes? Bro, I'm straight up having a good time.
Now, as is the norm with RGG games, Lost Judgment has an absolute wealth of side content and mini-games to check out. Now, one of the biggest complaints that I've seen with the previous title, and it is something that I agree with, is that the first game lacked mini-games and side content. So for the sequel, they decided to just get a minigun and open fire and pepper this game with tons of side content and mini-games.
Oh my god!
Now, because there are mini-games that I previously talked about in my Yakuza 0 video, and also in my original Judgment video, I'm not going to talk too much about the mini-games that return in this particular title, but I will quickly fire them off. So, returning are arcades, darts, baseball, golf, mahjong, shogi and other gambling games, and drone racing. One of the new additions here though, which is super cool, is that you now have a Master System console in Yagami's office. And you can play lots of different games on this, games that you can find and collect throughout the game. It's pretty cool. But the biggest new addition, the biggest draw, one of the biggest, coolest things about this game is something called School Stories. Oh, hi officers, yes, hi, how's it going? I'm just recording in the school. I'm recording the students, I'm recording the school. Wait, no, that sounded really bad. I didn't mean to like that, no! During the main story, Yagami has to investigate a school. And due to laws and police and things like that, he's not allowed to just go into the school and roam around whenever he needs to, whenever he needs to get information from some of the teachers or students or any other faculty members. So in order to be able to investigate on school property at any time he needs to, he decides that he's going to have to become a school club advisor, and this is your introduction to School Stories. Through a series of stories, Yagami investigates a mysterious and nefarious character known as the Professor. This Professor character is convincing students in the school to do bad things, and a lot of these bad things seem to revolve around the different school clubs. So Yagami finds himself becoming the advisor to multiple different school clubs in order to investigate what is going on here. As previously mentioned, you can join a boxing club which has a fully fleshed out boxing game. You can live out Japanese Sons of Anarchy fantasies and become a biker and tear up the highways of Yokohama. You can play Yagami Hawk's Pro Skater through scoring contests and races. Oh, and did I mention you can actually use the skateboard to tear your way through the streets too? You can also play Robot Wars, which is kind of like a fast-paced strategy game. You get these Tetris blocks and build your way across the battlefield, fighting the other robots and trying to secure their base as they try to secure yours. You can also craft new robots and parts to better your team. But the best minigame I saved for last. And that minigame is the Girls Bite Bar. Here you can drink with cute girls. That's it. Best game. Game of the year. Best game of the year right there. Game of the decade. Actually, I was completely lying about the best minigame. That was just for a dumb joke. The best minigame, in my opinion, is The Dance Club. For anyone unaware, I do believe that the actor who plays Yagami is a real-life musical performer or something like that. And there's a bunch of legal stuff, mumbo-jumbo and all that stuff, as to why they cannot include karaoke in this game, something the Yakuza games have. So, as a kind of, we want something music related, but we can't do this. Instead, they created this dance minigame. And this dance minigame works in a very similar way to Dance Dance Revolution. It's not as good as karaoke, but this is definitely my favourite minigame of the bunch. Plus, look at this!
Oh, that's it. That's it. Fuck me.
All of these minigames have their own separate stories as well. Everything relates to the Professor investigation, but they all have their own characters and stories. Overall, the School Stories are a great new addition to the game, but can sometimes get a little bit grindy, especially the Robotics Club. Sometimes you have to grind out materials or stats for a particular school story, which can be a little tedious at times. During your time with this game, you will also encounter a bunch of side stories known as side cases. These cases can range from incredibly entertaining
Oi!
to very heartfelt.
Eh?
these side cases are a staple of this studio's games, thanks to how funny and interesting some of them can be. Now, during the main story, you will have some detective-based sections of the game. Some of these little slices of gameplay return from the first game, such as tailing a target, which is still pretty dull, chasing after people. Well, this now goes on way too long, but you can punt a football at someone's head, so that's a thumbs up. You still search for clues during story segments, but now Yagami can do some new things, such as stealth segments. Now, I didn't really mind these stealth segments too much, but they were a little bit dull, and you only do these stealth segments like maybe once every couple of hours, so you kind of forget that they even exist a lot of the time. And another new thing that Yagami can do in this game is Yagami is now able to climb and scale things like he's Spider-Man. These sections are also far and few between, so most of the time you probably will forget they exist too. Yagami also gets a bunch of new toques in... I put new toques and not new tools. Fool of a toque! He also gets new tools, such as a listening device and a signal tracker. But the best new addition is a dog, isn't that right, buddy? He's a cute little boy. Oh my god, I love you so much. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yagami gets a dog and you can take him for walks. First cute girls and now this? Give it Game of the Year right now. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, Jeff Keighley. I want a Game of the Year award, but not for me.
Bang, bang, bang.
Oh, and the ability to take pictures using your phone is back too. So now you can take all the pictures of the anime girls that you want, even if it is a little bit creepy. For anyone who's never played any of these games before, because every game can be someone's first, Lost Judgment is set in Japan, in 2 cities specifically. That's 4, you dumbass. Kamurocho returns from the Yakuza series and the first Judgment game, as it usually does because this city is in every goddamn game they ever make. But it is still just as gorgeous as ever. As I said in my video on the previous game, the nightlife is really where Kamurocho shines through. Neon lighting drenches the streets, partygoers roam the roads and... well, alright, I'm gonna admit it now. I'm gonna finally admit it. I think I actually have a kink for cities at night because, goddamn! This game takes place mostly in the newly introduced Yokohama. Yokohama is a location that was introduced in one of my games of the year for 2021, Yakuza Like a Dragon. You want to know more about what I said about why Yakuza Like a Dragon is my game of the year, or you want to know more about my games of the year from 2021, feel free to go and check out this video. Now, this location hasn't changed much overall since Like a Dragon, but it still gives a different vibe to Kamurocho. It's also a lot larger than Kamurocho, but don't you worry, you do have a trusty skateboard to allow you to get around the map a little bit faster. Or you can just open your phone and use the taxi app, that also works. Now while we're on the topic of Yakuza Like a Dragon, that game had these kind of cartoony vibes to the character models. They certainly looked different from Yakuza 6, but this game goes back to more of that Yakuza 6 art style, and it was really cool to see that return. The game looks fantastic, with next-gen systems boasting 60 frames per second now. Though I can't show that as I am a poor little bitch, and I have neither the ability to record in 60 frames unless it's only 720p, nor do I have a next-gen system. But one day! Oh, but the most random thing that impressed me with this game is a small detail. Such a small detail, but just look at this! Look at that jacket's ruffle, god damn! Soundtrack section. Now, one thing that I love about these games from RGG is they always have really fucking good soundtracks. This studio always put out absolutely phenomenal soundtracks for their games, which makes a lot of sense considering they are owned by Sega, and Sega make tracks like these.
A river in a dry land, the left is in a lost land, a heartbeat for demon, a wedges in a strange land.
If the game is published by Sega, a lot of the time you know the soundtrack is gonna be good. But the soundtrack for this game but it does feature some dope-ass tracks. It has some super funky tracks for minigames. But the real place we should be shining the spotlight is on the combat music. Music in this game during combat and boss battles just fucking slaps. Oh, that hurts. Oh, I mean, just listen to this. This is so fucking epic. That song, which is titled Unwavering Belief, has actually become one of my favourite songs in the entire franchise. And yes, I count Lost Judgment as part of the Yakuza franchise because Judgment and Lost Judgment are basically the same kind of game. Oh, and by the way, the DJ footage that I showed in that video was actually from Sega and Atlus's show at Tokyo Game Show. They did a few cool little live streams to show off some of their games, but one segment they did was a music section, where these DJs played a cool mix of different Sega franchise songs, and it was super fun. So feel free to check that out if you want to. I'll leave a link for that in the description down below. So for the most part, every game can have its issues, and this game is no different. My biggest issue that I have with all the Yakuza and Judgment games at this point is just how grindy they can be, though this mostly applies to people who want to complete everything the game has to offer. For example, I got to about 50 or 60 hours into the game and had finished the story, and I was still grinding SP for my skills. It started to get really dull, just wandering up and down this one singular street, because it has the best spawns in the game, doing fights for hours on end. And some of the minigames can get a little bit grindy too, such as the Robotics Club, which makes you grind practice battles for crafting materials. It's kind of a pain to sit through in these games, and I will never understand why Japan has such a massive boner for grindy, monotonous content. Another issue that I have is something that can apply to some of the other games that the studio makes. But sometimes sections of these games can become dominated by cutscenes and chatter with little gameplay to break it up. There can be sections of the story where you can be sat watching cutscenes for hours, and with how much legal talk there is in this game, it can become a little bit overwhelming or boring. One of the changes this game makes regarding some of its story cutscenes as well is that it decided to use the Like a Dragon, Not Quite a cutscene. These scenes feel really dull compared to the usual in the room scenes, and I just wasn't a fan of them. I mean, look at this, it's just a fawn! I just find that these cutscenes really break the immersion for me personally, because it is much more interesting during story segments to see characters in a room like, yes, we should definitely investigate what we are doing in that building. Well, that's a very good point, Yagami. We should definitely check that out. Rather than them just doing this. Yes, Amasawa, we should definitely go and investigate that place. Don't worry, Yagami, I'll make sure to use my gun to shoot all the enemies. That would be very cool to do. Another issue that I had as well, actually kind of returns from the first Judgment, though it wasn't as bad in the first Judgment, which is that if you want to change fighting styles, you press down on the D-pad, which in the first Judgment was fine, because you only had two fighting styles, which meant that changing between these styles was pretty quick, because it was just one button press. But when you have 4 fighting styles, you're having to press the button repeatedly and watch Yagami do these weird animations where he's like before you can get to the fighting style that you want. And that's going to be kind of a pain to deal with. Now the reason why they've done this is so that you can set certain items, such as health items, to the D-pad for quick use. But I've gotten so used to just navigating the menus of the game anyway that I never use the quick use. I would rather have my combat styles mapped to specific D-pad buttons. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. Overall, Lost Judgment was the sequel that I was hoping for. I may not have enjoyed the story as much as the previous title, but it's still a great story full of twists and turns. The combat has been vastly improved and has become my favourite in the whole franchise. The cities in this game still look great, with its usual neon-tinted nighttime streets and sunset-drenched waterfronts. The soundtrack is yet another example of the amazing work that this studio and its publisher does, filled to the brim with electronic tracks to amplify the action, and the game didn't really suffer from too many issues overall. So that is why Lost Judgment has earned the title of a high fun times. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I do apologise this has taken so long to bring out. I only got around to finishing the game, I think like a month ago, so the game's been out since September. What am I doing with my life? For anyone that might be interested in seeing my playthrough of the game, I do have a full playthrough, which I currently haven't finished just yet. I'm just clearing up the side content after doing the story. But I do have the story finished. If you want to go and check that out, that is over on the ItsOcean channel up here. Let me know what you think about any of that stuff, let me know what you think about Lost Judgment, or let me know what you think about the Yakuza games in general. Feel free to hit me up down below. Don't know why I said hit me up, that sounds like you're going to slide into my DMs or something. But anyways, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Pip pip toodaloo!